typhoon, we have added this data. Overall, because we know that in these countries, we talk about Taiwan, Hong Kong, these countries are overall very well developed country, and that is why disaster management apparatus is very well developed as such. So response time is very quick, and that is why, as you can see, casualty rate is relatively low. If suppose same typhoon had hit other countries, for example, we have added this data. Overall, because we know that in these countries, right, if for example, if it hit Bangladesh, for example, or Cambodia, for example, in that case obviously would have expected death toll and missing figure to be much more higher, because there what do we have, disaster management apparatus is relatively weaker in nature, and that is some data. Apart from that, obviously we know that typhoon has very strong wind speeds, gale force wind it is called as, because wind is so strong it can cause damage to the infrastructures and whatever comes along its way, for example along its path, like trees, you have electric poles, cables and everything like this. Torrential rainfall we have seen. Torrential rainfall means it seems that rain is being poured like a bucket. Okay, certainly you have very big, large drops of rain and coming in very short duration of time. Okay, so torrential rainfall. Typhoon signal tell, this is the kind of highest warning that was issued by the Hong Kong authorities. Okay, you have 1 to 10, 1 being the weakest typhoon, 10 being the strongest typhoon. What determines the weak or a strong typhoon? Wind speed. What we are calling it this as a super typhoon. Why we are calling it super typhoon? So in these countries there is general rule. If the wind velocity in typhoon exceeds how much? 240 kilometers per hour. Okay, in that case we can call such typhoons as what kind of typhoon? Super typhoon. That means in this case obviously we can expect wind velocity was how much? 245 to 250 kilometers per hour. So that is why we are referring it as super typhoon as such. Okay, now same thing we have discussed, hurricanes in Atlantic Ocean, cyclones is named in the Indian Ocean, and in the Northwest Pacific Ocean they are referred as what? Typhoon as such. Wind speed for a storm to be categorized as a cyclone, what is the requirement? 118 kilometers per hour. The speed should be more than this, then we can call any weather system as cyclone. This is we have discussed in the notes, right? And for cyclone to be categorized as super typhoon, I told you what should be the wind speed? More than 240 kilometers per hour, right? So heavy rainfall, storms are the same thing that we have here. Now if you talk about India, India follows slightly different classification system, right? For example, super cyclonic storm, that is the highest category of storm that we classify in tropical cyclone. But here you can see what is the difference. This is if the wind speed is more than 221 km per hour. For super typhoon, what is the difference? 240 km per hour. That is how question can be framed in the prelims examination, that both super cyclones and super typhoon are referring to similar kind of wind system or wind measurement. That will be incorrect, because for super cyclone 221, for super typhoon more than 240 km per hour of wind speed is required. That is because in the Pacific Ocean you have more stronger cyclones that develop generally. In the case of India, 240 km per hour of storm is almost rare, we can say. In once in a 20 years it developed. That is why we would not classify it as such. In Pacific Ocean, development of super cyclones that is more than 230, 240 happens on a much more regular basis as such. Okay, because temperature of that region is quite higher, okay, as compared to Indian Ocean. That is why we use only this classification. Then you have extremely severe, very severe. This we have discussed in class as well. Okay, all this classification system that we have. We start from depression, deep depression, cyclonic storm, severe cyclonic storm, very severe, extremely severe, and this super cyclonic. Last super cyclonic storm in India that we witnessed was in 2021. No, 2020. Okay, that is when the COVID year was there. Cyclone Amphan. After that, we have not witnessed any super cyclonic storm. So once in a 10-year period, something like that, we can understand. Okay, overall we can see these are the areas where we see development of cyclones and this typhoons as such. So this area, if you talk about, this is Australia. Here what we have, this is your Philippines that we have shown. So cyclone originated where? Philippines. Okay, and this is your Taiwan, and then moved like this, Hong Kong, passing through the entire South China Sea, it reached somewhere around there. So every storm that develops in this region is called as typhoon. South of equator, tropical cyclone. Here both north, south, same name. Here north, hurricane, south, tropical cyclone. This side again north, hurricane. South it not have name because no country is there as such. Okay, so only thing that we have is this one, tropical cyclone as such. So three names are used in which area that we have seen in the figure as such. Now interestingly, if you look here, April to December or April to January is the season of cyclones. In the southern hemisphere, what do we have? Opposite season, October to May. October to May. Why? Because you know that seasons are reversed between northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere. If it is summer in the northern hemisphere, it is winter in southern hemisphere. And we have discussed that for tropical cyclone to develop, right, what do you require? War motion water. That means sea surface temperature should be higher than how much? 26.5 to 27 degrees Celsius. That is only possible in which season, which month? Summer month. And that is why you have the difference in the month in which cyclones occur, either in the north or in the south as such. So these are the conditions. Again, war motion water is required. Second, we have discussed that in cyclone we have very strong rotation of wind. The strong rotation of wind can only occur if you have Coriolis force. Coriolis force is only applicable beyond which latitude? You can say beyond generally 10 degree north. Between 0 degree to 10 degree north or 0 degree to 10 degree south, we do not see development of any tropical cyclone. Why? Because Coriolis force is almost negligible, right? So simply winds are not able to rotate, they keep on moving in a straight path as well. That is why if a question is given that around equator strong tropical cyclones can develop, that statement will be incorrect statement. It can only develop in the tropical, subtropical areas, not in the equatorial areas as such. Further, in temperate areas, you cannot see development of tropical cyclone. Why? Because ocean temperature here is what? Less. Okay, 20-21 degrees Celsius, something like that. So largely we can see between 10 degree to 30 degree of latitude, both north and south, is very high possibility of development of tropical cyclone because of these two requirements as such. Second, we know that cyclone is what kind of pressure system? Low pressure system. At the center we have low pressure, because wind is rising in the upward direction and the wind comes from all the sides, start to rotate around this low pressure that intensifies storm activity. Plus in cyclones, because you have heavy rainfall, okay, strong thunderstorm clouds and all that, that is what you require for that, moisture. And that is the reason tropical cyclones always develop over which kind of surface? Sea surface. Tropical cyclones can never develop over land surface. Why? Because what is missing there? Over land, moisture is missing. Moisture plus atmospheric instability. Atmospheric instability simply means that wind should be rising in the upward direction. If the wind rises up, we call it instability. If wind sinking downward, we call it stability. So for cyclone, what do you require? Upward movement of wind. That means what do you require? Atmospheric instability. So both of these conditions, if they are fulfilled, they fuel the growth of cyclone. So if all these conditions are met, then only we can say tropical cyclones or typhoons or hurricanes can develop as such. Right, if we try to understand overall comprehensively what will the effect or what can be the effect of tropical cyclones, obviously effect will be seen on humans. We have seen a case of what? Death, injuries and displacement as such, because many times it causes flood also in the coastal areas. So if the flood is taking place, that means people cannot live there anymore. For short period of time they have to move away from their home, so displacement occurs. Economic losses, obviously what do you have? Infrastructure damage because of gale force, strong force of wind. Plus you have losses in which part? Agriculture also, because if you try to understand in the coastal areas, what do we have? Like Vietnam, for example, right? Here people are practicing agriculture, carrying out agriculture as such. Now when the cyclones come, they are coming from, or typhoon are coming from where? From the sea, and they are coming with a strong speed. So obviously what will happen to seawater? It will be pushed further inward to the coast, and seawater is full of salt. So for temporary period, entire coastal areas where agriculture was in practice, the entire soil is covered with salt, and if salt is covering the soil, that means fertility will reduce. If fertility reduces, crop yield will reduce. That means what we will encounter? Losses in agriculture. Plus flooding also is taking place. So if crop is already growing, flooding will cause what? Devastation, destruction of the entire crop, agricultural land. So these are the losses. Environmental losses, same, floods, landslide, coastal erosion and all that we can see from the cyclones. And political, obviously the disaster management becomes very important here, and if a government is not able to properly address this disaster, it can cause discontentment among the citizens. That can cause what? Political turmoil, losses to the political party in power and all that. Internationally it also become important if the typhoon is very strong or the cyclone is very strong. So this is the first topic, simple. What is the type? What was the topic? Super typhoon Rakasa. Okay, where did it develop? Pacific Ocean. Right? Second topic is related to a new project that is announced by the government called as Oju Hydel project, okay, in the upper Subansuri river, which is in the state of Arunachal Pradesh. Okay, overall you can say. So Oju Hydel project, upper Subansuri, Arunachal Pradesh. Okay. Now if you try to briefly understand where this project is located, okay, we can look at the map itself. Same thing is given here. So we know we have discussed about river Brahmaputra. Brahmaputra is coming from Tibet, and then near the Namcha Barwa peak I told you in class. What happens? Brahmaputra enters India, takes U-turn and then flows through the Arunachal Pradesh, then it enters Assam, and then near Meghalaya it takes a 90-degree turn, enter into Bangladesh, right? Now one of the major tributary we have discussed is coming from Tibet again. What is the river? Subansiri river. So as you can see, in the Subansiri river, in the upper part of Subansiri river, this particular hydel project has been commissioned by government. Okay, so this is the first thing we have to keep in mind here. Now, Oju hydel project is overall having capacity of 2220 megawatt. Hydel project means simple. What is the hydel project? What is hydel project? It is where you are using the flow velocity of river or flow velocity of river to what? Produce electricity. So how much amount of electricity you can produce from here? 2220 megawatt of electricity. Second thing, if you look here, it is given as which kind of scheme it is? Run of the river scheme. Run of the river means you do not store water for longer period of time. You ensure that water is taken to a higher elevation and continuously water is flowing. Okay, and as the water flow, it keeps on rotating the turbine, and that helps in generation of electricity as such. So whenever you come across this concept or term, run of river means the water is not stored in large dam or in large reservoir. Water is stored for temporary period, and overall the focus is on letting or allowing the water to flow continuously as such. Why it is required? Because if suppose you construct a huge reservoir here, okay, you store water for longer duration. In that case, there will be lack of water in these areas. People are dependent on agriculture for drinking purposes, so they will face problem. In Run of the River scheme, what happens? There is no change or appreciable or significant change in the volume of water flowing through the different regions. So people will not face any difficulty because of hydroelectric projects. So these days, if you look in, especially in the hilly areas, government is more focused on Run of River scheme rather than developing a large dam or infrastructure as such. Right? No. Course is not changed. You just create obstruction in the path of river. Okay, and still you allow the river to flow through as such.
Okay. So it will not affect any.
No, that's why we use this another river project. Okay. Third is gravity dam. Gravity dam means the water is not flowing by pressure, okay, or pump. It is flowing simply because it is flowing from higher elevation to lower elevation as such. Okay, so gravity dam. Okay, headrest tunnel is there. Tunnel is through which water is coming out. Underground powerhouse. Okay, that is turbine you have. Overall project cost is how much? Roughly 25,000 crore. Okay, that is the project cost. And overall, okay, this much amount, million units of electricity can be generated as such. So these are some of the data. Not important that much from examination perspective, just to have a comparative understanding. Okay, now, before this, we have to understand about this river itself, Subansiri river. Now, Subansiri, if you look, Subansiri actually is a term which has come from two words. One is Sward. Sward plus Siri. Siri means river in the local language. Sward means what? Gold. That is why Subansiri river stands for Gold river. Okay, Gold river. So it is a trans-Himalayan river because it is passing through the trans-Himalayan ranges. Okay, that we have in the upper part. And origin point, if you look at, of this river is considered to be Mount Porom. Okay, at the elevation of 5,059 meter in the Tibetan Himalayas. Right? So Mount Porom is the origin point of Subansiri, and then once it originates from Tibet, it passes through Arunachal Pradesh. In Arunachal, in the class I told you that 4 major ranges are there. Okay, these are the Dafla Hills. In Shivalik Himalayas, we have discussed about this. Dafla Hills, Miri Hills, Abor Hills, and then finally what do we have? Mishmi Hills. So the river, that is Subansiri, it passes across which of the hill? Answer is Miri Hill. Okay, Dafla, Miri, Abor Hills, Mishmi. So from Miri Hill it passes through, and near the place called as Majuli Island, the river merges with which river? Brahmaputra. That means Subansiri is tributary of Brahmaputra. Now, what is the significance of Majuli? If you remember in the class, I told you that Majuli Island is example of riverine island and the largest riverine island in the entire world. Okay, that is the Majuli Island. So, question can be asked easily that at the confluence of which rivers Majuli Island is found? Answer will be Subansiri river and Brahmaputra river. Right? So, that is the.
Oh, so the island is where they both rivers.
That is why it is surrounded by river water from all the sides as such. Okay, Subansiri river and Brahmaputra river. Then, though the approval has been granted, the project has finalized, many of the critics were arguing that there is going to be environmental and social impact, adverse impact because of such projects. Okay, and what is the example? So, first of all, in these areas, we have seen cases of glacial lake outburst flood. That means lakes are there which are formed due to the glacial melting. They many times get flooded and they suddenly breaches the glacial wall and huge volume of water rushes in downward areas. that can cause damage to the structures that you have created, that will cause sudden flooding in the downstream areas such. So there is a possibility of what? Possibility of significant floods due to such project. Okay. Second is entire Himalayas we have discussed is lying in which kind of zone? High seismic zone. That means there is a high probability of earthquake there. Why? Because you know that in this region Indian plate is continuously colliding with the Eurasian plate. You have continuous CC convergence. Due to this, what happened? You have the stresses developing in the rocks. That means there is a high probability of earthquake. And suppose you have constructed structures here, okay, like hydel project and all that. If suppose high magnitude earthquake happens, what can happen here? Cracks can develop, okay, the failure can happen in the structures and all that. Again, due to this, the water that is present here suddenly will gush out in the downward area, causing what? Floods. Plus 25,000 crore rupees you have spent, and you are making project in high seismic zone. So if a high magnitude earthquake happen, what will happen? The entire project will be simply devastated, destroyed. So you will now these are some data that is given here. For example, how much hectares of forest land has been diverted? 750 hectares of forest land. Okay, to understand the impact, 43 hectares of land has been submerged because you are pulling up water in the upward direction. That means you are constructing some kind of obstruction. So water level will increase. That will swell up or swallow up the entire area around it. Right. Third, what do we have? Okay, 9 villages. People have been displaced from this particular areas. So this is how we can understand the impact of this project. Okay. The significance of project, however, cannot be undermined. So obviously, hydro project is important for providing energy security, because in northeastern India, still electricity is considered as a luxury. Okay, if 3, 4, 5 hours electricity is in the villages, in the houses, people are very happy. Remaining time, what happens? They live in darkness. Why? Because the mainstream power grids are not, or basically thermal based power grids are not that much functioning there. So if you are creating low scale hydro project in northeastern regions, what will happen? You will be able to provide electricity in the small isolated pockets and all that. Okay, so very important from energy security of northeast. Plus it also has a strategic location because it is located where? China border as such. So this is also considered as of strategic significance because China already is announcing a lot of projects, dam projects as such. So India in retaliation also is announcing a lot of dam projects. Like example, China has announced about a project called as Midok County Dam, which is going to be the largest dam in the entire world. That is also over which river? Brahmaputra river. So India said that will also construct a dam, okay, and hydro project that is called as Upper Siang project, right? Similarly, recently China has stated that will also develop project on the same Subansiri river. And as a response of this, India already has started developing this Oju hydroelectric project as such. Okay, so this kind of water war we can see brewing between India and China in the Tibetan Himalayas. Northeast grid renewable energy target, this can be made because small hydropower is example of which kind of electricity? Renewable. Why renewable? Because you are not using any fossil fuel. You can use as much water as possible, generate as much electricity as possible without causing any pollution. Okay, that is the advantage of hydropower. Plus, as hydro projects develop, now try to think it will also be important for regional development, because you know that northeastern India have very low industrial development or investment. Why? One of the reason is lack of infrastructure. One of the major infrastructure requirement for industries is what? Availability of power. So if you are constructing power grids, you are providing electricity to the industry. So more investment we can see in the northeastern India and all that. So regional development, employment generation and all that we can see in the future as such. Okay, that is how we can understand the significance. So this is the second topic. Okay, next third topic, which was very much in news these days, was related to the Ladakh agitation. We have seen youth unrest and demand related to statehood and putting Ladakh under the sixth schedule of the constitution as such. Just a second, sir. Sorry for the disturbance. So you have to wait this. Check same one. Change it. It's okay now. Yeah. Right. Right. So, this is what. So we have to discuss about the Ladakh agitation. Okay, we know that in Ladakh we have largely seen participation of youth. Okay, that is why protest also is being referred as Gen Z protest. Right. Same like we have seen in the case of Nepal few weeks back. So what is the protest all about? There are two demands. We know that after the abrogation of Article 370 in 2019, Jammu Kashmir used to be a state. Ladakh used to be part of Jammu and Kashmir. Now what we have done? We have made two union territory, Jammu Kashmir and Ladakh as such. So people are not happy because Ladakhi people want a statehood for themselves. And if not a statehood, they say that we should have, even if we have union territory, we should be included in the sixth schedule. That means there should be legislature in the union territory. Currently, Ladakh do not have any legislature as such. It is directly controlled by who? Lieutenant governor, we can say as such. Right. So this is the demand overall. Now, overall, same thing we have discussed. Then, in this case, the main person who began this protest is Sonam Wangchuk. Okay, he is the climate activist and he went on a hunger strike. So a lot of people are coming to meet him and they were the one who wanted him to raise the demand. A lot of organizations nearby in the Ladakh itself, they also lent support to the voice as such. So what happened actually, the protest was going on and the hunger strike was going on. Suddenly on 24th of September, generally about 500,000 people used to come in his protest. On that day, suddenly we have seen more than 5,000 people, especially youth population, came there and they became very much angry because it seemed that government did not care about their demand. he has been on hunger strike for so many days, still government has not taken any action as such. So gradually what happened, people became very unhappy, and especially we know that youth population is more fragile in nature in terms of the mindset and all that. So protests that were till now were non-violent in nature turned what? Violent. So local youth population began to attack the government offices. They even attacked the Bharatiya Janata Party office because they believe that it is this government responsible for not granting demand of autonomy to the Ladakh as such. They also attacked the this Ladakh area, Hill Area Development Council, this offices that you have. And the CRPF was called in, local police was also roped in, and there was a large scale repression of the protest as such. In that case, unfortunately, we have seen killing or death of 4 protester, because CRPF and this local police fired in the bullet, and in this case there was death also, injury also. And the main activist person, that is Sonam Wangchuk, he was arrested, and after that we know that after he was arrested he was taken to Jodhpur Rajasthan jail, right? Because the government cannot put him in the jail of Ladakh because people will go and try to break the jail also. So that he was taking that into consideration, government brought him to Jodhpur jail. Also he runs several NGOs. Okay, so the licenses of NGO were also revoked because government has stated that the person Sonam Wangchuk is somehow linked with the Pakistan based agencies and all that. Okay, he has visited Pakistan, he has met with the people of Pakistan, leaders of Pakistan and all that. So they wanted to again do the proper inspection of that, what actually is the work NGO is involved in. FCRA stands for Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. That means if any NGO is getting foreign aid, it has to be registered under FCRA, then only it is possible for it to get foreign aid. If the license of FCRA is revoked, that means NGO cannot get any foreign aid such. It is illegal. If NGO is receiving foreign aid, the person can be jailed further. Okay, action can be taken against him. So this is how we can understand the trigger and escalation. Demand is same, I told you. First is statehood for Ladakh, or if it is union territory, it should be granted what? Legislative assembly as such. 6th schedule, tribal autonomy should be there. Plus they say that we should also be given representation where? If talk about Ladakh, currently have representation in the Lok Sabha only on 2 seats. Leh is the region, and Kargil. Kargil war you would have heard about. Okay, so Kargil is the region currently in the Ladakh. So Leh and Kargil, 2 Lok Sabha seats they have. Overall, if you try to understand about that why suddenly youth became so violent in nature, it is not only because of the demand of statehood. Many people believe and argue it is also because Ladakhi population, Ladakh youth population is facing problem of unemployment basically. They want more employment opportunities and all that, and that is why they are also demanding reservation for the job for the local community. Because in Ladakh also what we are seeing, that whatever infrastructure project is being commissioned there, many times because the people from the other northern states, they are willing to work at low prices, they are being brought to work there. So local population is not getting any employment opportunities. Central projects, again you have the central government employees who are working there, like border roads organization you have. So all the BRO employees are from the different parts of India. So they feel that the development is taking place in Ladakh, but they are not getting any benefit. Why? Because they are not being given job or employment opportunities. So these are some of the grievances that they have raised, and that is why the protesters have turned violent. Plus youth unrest mobilization we can understand. Okay, Genji protest, as it was referred as, similar on the line of Nepal. Genji protest means largely you have youth population in the which age group? 18 to 25 age group, we can say. Student activists were involved here. Plus also these days protests become much more easier. If you want to scale the protest, what you can use? Social media. Okay, earlier people did not know where to go, where to arrange meeting, right, and all that. Today we have a page. You follow the page, you'll know everything about that. So you can easily access and go to participate that. So digital mobilization is something that is being done these days by using social media. Same thing, frustration over unfulfilled promises. Unfulfilled promises is very important angle, because many of the organizations have stated that they're not asking something that was never talked about before. Actually, when Ladakh was carved out as union territory, that time some of the central leaders have assured the people of Ladakh that after a few years we will grant you autonomy, we will grant you statehood, we will grant you legislative assembly and all that. But now they are saying that they are not even talking about it. Okay, so basically it is a case of what? Unfulfilled promises. That is why there is a lot of anger against BJP, because it was the BJP leaders who have promised this kind of thing, and now they are not doing anything about it. Right, so that is the thing. So break from the peaceful method to street violence. We have seen legacy of previous peaceful agitation. However, in the Ladakh, this is for the first time you are seeing such kind of violent protest. Earlier, we have seen a lot of protest in Ladakh, okay, since last 7-8 years. But majority of these protests were of what nature? peaceful nature. Now it seems that dynamic is shifting. The non-violent protest, it seems that is not yielding any result, and that is why youth is getting frustrated, and that is why we have seen the break from the past. Okay, where violent protest is being seen here. Now obviously government has reacted by imposing curfew and all that. Okay, section 163 was imposed, internet restrictions were made, more security forces were deployed, gathering were restricted and all that. Plus I told you that Sonam Wangchuk, who is the main leader, now government is trying to look into which kind of angle his link with Pakistan. So even some of the BJP leaders have went on and said that Sonam Wangchuk is not working alone. He is being guided by some of the foreign personalities, okay, who do not want to have peace and progress in Ladakh region and Jammu Kashmir region overall. So this is the angle that we are trying to see. Same thing we have discussed. However, they have said that central government, they have said that we are not shying away from dialogue as far as the genuine demand of Ladakhi population is concerned. We can meet, and in this case two bodies we have, Ladakh Autonomous Body and Kargil Development Authority. So representative of these bodies, government has asked them to come and meet when? On October 6th, okay, that will Monday. So October 6th they can come in Delhi, meet, and then decide what to do and how to do and all that. And this is also one thing that government has stated, that Sonam Wangchuk was trying to create disturbance here. Government has alleged that Sonam Wangchuk did not wanted this meeting to take place, okay, and that is why he has incited the mob. And government, I told you why Sonam Wangchuk was arrested, because government stated that it is him who has incited the crowd, and it is him who is responsible for the violence that we have seen in Ladakh as such. Okay, so indirectly he is being considered responsible by government as such. Now obviously there is challenge and risk, obviously, because two narratives are there. Okay, we have local narrative where the local people are saying some different things. Local population is saying that they are this revolt is being oppressed in a brutal manner. There is no need for CRPF and police to fire bullets, okay, because people there are not attacking policemen and all that. So they were just simply trying to break through some areas, and then police fired without giving warning. That is one allegation they have made. Local population is saying that even if bullets have to be fired, first people have to be given warning that if you do not stop, we will fire bullet. So CRPF and police fired bullet without giving any kind of prior warning as such. So this is something that is wrong. Plus there is a constitutional limit also, UT status, lack of statehood precedent we have. In many cases we have seen that whenever any union territory is created, in most of time it is created without legislative assembly as such. Okay, so again how the situation will change, we have to wait and watch. Security implications is very important point here, especially because of two reasons. One, we know that Ladakh is very closely connected geographically with Jammu and Kashmir. Jammu Kashmir has close relation means geographical linkage with Pakistan as such. So we cannot deny that there is not any influence of Pakistan in this particular case as such. So that is why it is very, very important. Security threat we have to take very seriously as such. And if such kind of unrest keep on going on, what will happen? The external agents will try to take advantage of the situation. They can even try to fund the operations and all that. Like for example, in Khalistan demand you have seen in past. Okay, what happened? Sikh wanted a separate state, separate country basically. And later on, we have seen Pakistani IAS began to fund this entire protest, okay, operation and all this kind of thing. So same thing we can see in the future. That is why we have to ensure that strict actions are taken in the beginning itself. The same thing, Article 370 talk about the constitution framework. What is the demand? 6th schedule. Okay, very, very important. Keep this in mind. 6th schedule. You would have read about this in polity. Okay, and then you have the statehood aspirations and all that. Then the next topic we have is of INS Androth, Indian Naval Ship Androth, that is inducted in the Indian Navy. It is going to be India's next anti-submarine warfare shallow watercraft. This is the type of ship we can talk about. Okay, we have different grades and type of ship in the Indian Navy. So recent induction of INS Androth, it is anti-submarine warfare shallow watercraft. Okay, so briefly about this ship we have to study. So type we have discussed, anti-submarine warfare. Two things are there we have to understand. Anti-submarine warfare and shallow watercraft. What is anti-submarine warfare? We know that this is the sea surface. Okay, so on the surface what do we have? Ships are floating, and then there are submersible. Okay, these are called as submarines who are moving where? Below the surface level. Okay, 300, 400, 500 feet below the sea level and all that. So they are hidden. They are not easily detected. So we need to have certain ships which are largely targeting such kind of submarine, that before they can reach the coastal areas and carry out attack, they can be easily identified and destroyed somewhere far away from the coast itself. That is why we are calling this ship as which kind of ship? Anti-submarine, okay, warfare ship. Second, what is the term? Shallow water craft. Now, the Indian Navy ships that we have, they are very large ships, like frigate, for example, corvettes we have, destroyers we have, right? We have aircraft carrier, but these are very large and bulky ships. They cannot travel in the coastal area. Okay, suppose this is the coast. Why? Because in coastal areas, water level is low or high? Water level is low. If you go further deep in the ocean, what happens? Water level increases. So these large ships can only traverse in deeper ocean. In the coastal areas, what you require? Smaller ships. That is why this particular ship, INS Androth, is designed to operate in which kind of water? Shallow water. In other way, we can say near the coastal areas itself. Okay, so that is why we are calling it as anti-submarine warfare shallow water craft. Okay, so this should be clear to you. Commissioning date is again on Monday, October 6, 2025. Who has built this ship? So Garden Research Institute you have in the Kolkata. Okay, you have different shipyards. So Garden Research Shipping and Engineering. Okay, I think that is the full form in Kolkata. And the most important thing is that the ship is using more than 80% of the components which has been developed where? Inside India. Okay, so this is example of Atmanirbhar Bharat, self-dependent India. Nowadays, most of ships which we are inducting in the Navy, right, they are using which kind of content? Indigenous content. Earlier, 5-10% of component used to be Indian, remaining 80 to 90% component used to be foreign. Okay, for example, earlier most of naval ship you talk about India, it has been imported from Russia. Okay, only 5-10% addition we have done here. Now situation is changing. Now 80-85% of content we are developing inside India. Remaining 10-20% of content we are importing from outside as such. Okay, so self-reliance is something that is being emphasized on government, and Androth is example of this. Now the question comes that why we are calling this ship as INS Androth. So it is named after an island that is called as same Androth Island. It is part of which region? Lakshadweep. Okay, a group of islands that we have in Lakshadweep. So that is why we are naming this ship as INS Androth. Okay, as such. Displacement wise, again, these are some dimensions, not that important. Propulsion wise, they have diesel based engine. Okay, so diesel based engine, they run the propeller then pushes the water in the backward direction, and Newton's law of motion, you know, okay, every action has equal and opposite reaction. So you push the water back, ship will be propelled in the forward direction. That is what you call as water jet structure, this water jet propulsion as such. It has a lot of sensor like lightweight torpedoes. Okay, torpedoes are used generally to destroy ships, especially submarines and all that. Indigenous anti-submarine warfare rockets, we have sonar, you know that, sound navigation and ranging. Okay, for example, I told you that what kind of ship it is? Anti-submarine warfare. Where are submarines? Somewhere below the surface level. So how will you detect submarine? You cannot go and look at the submarine inside. So what you do? You send sound waves everywhere. Okay, so you are sending sound waves everywhere. What will happen? The sound wave will strike the submarine. After that, what will happen? It will be reflected. Again, you record it. Right, that means you will be able to understand whether there is any kind of submarine there or not. So to detect the submarine, what you require? Sonar. Okay, that is why sonar is mounted here. Which kind of sonar? That is able to work in a shallow water, because we have discussed this ship is largely designed to work in the shallow area, coastal area as such. Right, this is the thing. Right, role, littoral, same coastal area, surveillance role. It can also be used for laying of mines. Okay, very important. Suppose that we have Arabian Sea here. So if you do not want the foreign vessels during the time of war to come near the Arabian Sea coast, what many countries do? They put up mines everywhere in the ocean. Okay, and if a ship is passing over the mines, as soon as it comes in contact with mine, what will happen? Blast. Okay, that means ship will be destroyed. So you need certain ship which can lay mine everywhere in the ocean as such, and that is the capacity which has been introduced in this particular Androth as well as such. Okay. Contractor sea trial has been constructed. Contractor sea trial is a term that we use like before handing over to Navy. GRSC is the builder we have discussed. So they have to complete the final trial to understand that yes, the ship that we wanted, we have developed that ship. After that, finally they will hand it over to the Indian Navy. So this was commissioned, this carried out recently. So contractor who is builder basically. The strategic and operational rule also we can identify here. Address subsurface threat in the shallow littoral zone. Strengthen coastal defense architecture. Okay, we talk about the coastline of India. We have 3-layered architecture. In the closest region, you have state marine police, for example. Right? You go further beyond. This area is managed by other organization that is called as ICG, Indian Coast Guard. And you go further beyond, what do you have? Indian Navy. Okay, so you have multi-tiered security architecture within this particular defense architecture, further we have added this INS Androth as such, okay, to work in this particular area as such. It will overall act as a force multiplier in ASW grid for island territories, and it will be included along with other larger ships. I told you large ships are frigates, okay, then we have the corvettes, then we have destroyer, then the largest ship we talk about is which one? Aircraft carrier, okay, it is kind of mobile station, this military bases we can say is the aircraft carrier. And overall the focus area will be which one? Clear from the name itself. It has been named after an island. Why it has been named after an island? Because government want to ensure security of the islands of India such as Andaman Nicobar, Lakshadweep and all that. Okay, this is the priority area that is going to be decided, giving to the INS Androth as such. Okay, overall same thing, strength and make in India, the same point we have discussed before. Okay, now this is not going to be the only ship here. There is a proposal to add such kind of how many ships? 16 ships. This is the second ship, INS Androth. Before you have a ship that has been inducted in 2025 called as INS Arnala. And next one will be which one? INS Ajay. So Arnala already is operating. Androth will be inducted on 6th of October, and next year we'll have induction of INS Ajay as such. Generally you will see that if the vessel belong to the same category, what happens? Name start from the same letter. Okay, like S, okay, Shivalik class submarines, for example, all the submarines are named after S. So same thing here we have Arnala, Androth, Ajay and all these kind of things. Okay, so ASW grid, again same thing we have, anti-submarine warfare grid. Other thing is that if we talk about Indian Navy, you have three bases, we can say, or three commands of Indian Navy. Which command? Western Naval Command, that is in Mumbai. Southern Naval Command, that is in Kochi. And Eastern Naval Command, that is in Vishakhapatnam. So INS Androth has been inducted under which command? Eastern Naval Command. That means it will be controlled by which dockyard, which naval dockyard? Vishakhapatnam Naval Dockyard. Okay, entire control command will be ensured from Vishakhapatnam region itself. Right, so this is the thing. Now we have discussed that it is named after Androth Islands. We can take a look at the map here. We know that these are the several islands which are part of Lakshadweep group. And this here you can see which island. This is the Androth Islands. Okay, it belongs to Amindivi group of island. In the northern part talk about this particular group of island of Lakshadweep. This is referred as Amindivi Island. Okay, the lower side, this we have discussed in class. This group of island is called as what? Kannanur Island. So Androth is under which island group? Lakshadweep. But under Lakshadweep which island group? Answer will be Amindivi Island group as such. Okay, so this is the fact that you have to keep in mind. Same thing, Indian Ocean, Lakshadweep Sea, Malabar coast nearby you have. So it is because of China. China is trying to increase and assert its presence there. That is why we also have tried to increase our naval warfare capability in this particular area. Same thing we have discussed. What are the characteristics? Okay. Now the next topic we have is India recently has conducted a mega drone drill. Okay, mega drone drill, and this particular drill is referred as Cold Start. It is an upcoming initiative in October itself. We'll see a mega drone drill called as Cold Start that will be launched by all the forces, Army, Air Force and Navy. All three will launch this or participate in this initiative together as such. Okay, so Cold Start. So briefly we have to understand about this. So first point is, what is Cold Start? It is India's, till now, talk about the entire history, biggest drone drill. Why we are focusing upon here? Simply because you understand it is because of Operation Sindoor. We know that we have conducted Operation Sindoor. As a response of this, what we see? Pakistan has sent swarms of drones, numbers of drones in the Indian territory that were neutralized by Indian Army and security forces and all that. But still we understand that the next war that we are going to fight, it will not be the conventional war like we fought in Kargil, for example. That where you have tanks, artillery, battle and all these kind of things, where you have the fighter jet aircrafts and all that. Rather in the best case scenario, what will have? Fight with drones. Different types of drones are being developed here. That is why India want to be fully prepared for the next war, and that is why we are developing, testing and analyzing our drone warfare capability and capacity. So October, as I told you, schedule multi-service, inter-service. What is multi-service? Same, Air Force, Navy, Army, all three will operate together, and also they will work together to understand their capacity and such. Scope is both offensive and surveillance. That means how to use drone to destroy enemy target, and surveillance means how to enter inside enemy territory and gain important information and insights and all about this, so we can have a precise attack on the enemy target and all that, right? And participating branches, same thing. Apart from that, here also, who is participating? Research wing, that you have Defense Research and Development Organization, that is DRDO, because these are the departments, organization responsible for building up of drones and all that, right? So the rationale or objective is same, to test the integrated drone warfare doctrine, strengthen multi-domain synergy. Imagine that example, we have India here, right? Like this. So this part you have the Indian Army. Okay, here what do you have? Indian Navy as such. In the sky we have Indian Air Force as such. So if you want to ensure security, proper security across the entire Indian border, what you need? Integrated functioning by all three forces together, and this should be seen not only in the conventional warfare but also in the drone related warfare as such. That is why we are trying to build all these together, these branches of army together, so that we can understand how we can work, right? Second is also here focus is on what kind of munitions? Loitering munitions. There are two type of drone. One drone is it go inside the Indian territory, enemy territory, take some intelligence, take some data information, capture some photograph images, and is brought back. That means our focus is to not let this drone get destroyed or damaged as such. Second type of drone is much more cheaper. Cheaper drones are something that are specially designed for the purpose of getting destroyed. It is something that we call as suicide drones. What you do, you take a cheap drone, you put a lot of explosive on these cheap drones, you send inside the enemy territory and let it collide. After collision, what will happen? The explosive will cause blast. That means it will cause damage to the structures, infrastructures and all this. So loitering munitions are something that we can simply call as suicide drones. Their objective is to go collide, destroy. So they are something that is going to call as only one-time attack. Okay, they can cause. They're not expected to be brought back as such. Second, we are trying to understand also and design also what kind of tactics. Swarm tactics. Swarm tactics means this is the Union territory. You do not send 1, 2, 5, 10 drones. You send hundreds of drones at the same time. Okay, and if hundreds of drones are sent at the same time, even if enemy air defense is engaged, what will happen? They will not be able to kill all the drones. Even if 5, 10 drones are able to penetrate through the enemy air defense, they will be able to cause catastrophic damage and all that. Okay, so that is why we are developing this particular tactic. So thousands and thousands of drones, okay, or hundreds, not thousands, hundreds and hundreds of drones can be sent at the same time in the same area. So overall, the objective is to improve our operational readiness both during the peace time as well as during the conflict or war as such. Okay. Now, drones that will be used in this particular exercise are of 4 types. One drone that we call as MALE drone. Okay, MALE means medium altitude. Medium altitude means anywhere up to 30,000 feet. Drone is able to fly up to 30,000 feet. And LE stand for long endurance. So medium altitude, long endurance. Long endurance means drones should be able to remain in the sky for at least how many hours? 30 hours, okay, before the need of changing the battery and all these kind of things. So medium altitude, long endurance. So what we call this as acronym? MALE drone. This is what we are using here. UAV, that is simple any drones, unmanned aerial vehicle. Okay. Third is, we have discussed already, loitering munitions, that is your suicide drones, kamikaze drones. And then we have small scale micro drones. Why micro drones? Because micro drones is much more difficult to be captured by enemy radar. Okay, it seems like a small bird is flying and all that, right? So if you want to do surveillance, which are the best kind of drone? Micro drone, because they can easily enter into enemy territory without getting detected. They can capture the images and all that and can safely be brought back as such. Mission profile, same. Surveillance, strike, logistic. Logistic means if you want to supply something to your forces, what you can use? Drones. Okay. And electronic warfare support that can also be provided by the drone attack and all that, right? Then coordinated system coordination means both. You have the manned team and unmanned team. Okay, that means unmanned drones working together. Electronic warfare, jamming, anti-drone drills, these are some of the subject matter. Communication network. Okay, you have also attempt to integrate drones today. We have heard, we have discussed, and we have read about that today is the world of what? Artificial intelligence. We are also trying to bring in artificial intelligence, how it can be used and utilized in a manner, in certain manner, in the drone warfare also as such. Strategic and security implications, what do we have? It shows that India till now was not that much inclined in the drone warfare development. Till now, if you have read the news, before Operation Sindoor, we were largely focused on conventional warfare. We are trying to induct fighter aircraft like Rafale we have inducted. We are trying to induct S-400 air defense system, that is long range air defense system and all that. Drone development was kind of missing, or if not missing, at least lacking as far as the India's military doctrine is concerned. This has changed significantly due to the Indo-Pakistan war that took place over a period of 3-4 days and all that. And now India understand that Pakistan have access to large number of such kind of drones. They are getting from Turkey, they are getting from China, and that is why India cannot be left behind, and that is why the focus today has shifted to the drone warfare and all that. So deterrence, escalation, threshold, unmanned first strike, India also has shifted its policy stance, right? After the Pahalgam attack, what we have said, that if Pakistan is found to be involved in any kind of terror attacks anywhere in India, India will have right to strike Pakistan anywhere it wants. And better to strike with what? Drones, where the possibility of human life lost is very, very less as such. Okay, so that is why we have to develop the first strike capability as well from the drones perspective, UAV perspective. Okay, so border standoff like China, Pakistan, recently you would have heard about in the Gujarat region, there is a place called as Sir Creek. Okay, it is a disputed territory between India and Pakistan. Now Pakistan is building its forces in Sir Creek region. Okay, so in that case, what we can do, we can again use drone to understand the surveillance, to carry out surveillance, to understand how many troops they have built. Okay, how many artillery, guns, and all these things they have brought in. Based on the data analysis, we can then further build our own forces along this particular border and all that. Right. So very important. If there is a standoff, standoff means the military are not engaging; they are simply what you can say, positioned along the border as such. Okay, like for example, China, we had a standoff, so thousands and thousands, around I think 70-80,000 troops of China were along the Ladakh border. They're not posting something that they're going to attack us, they were simply stationed there. So from India side also, we have responded by stationing similar number of troops in these areas. This situation is what we call as in military terms stand off as such. Okay, before war condition or pre-war condition, that is a standoff. Now obviously, because you know that everywhere across the world, countries today are fighting with a drone. We have seen the case of Russia-Ukraine war also. So if India is able to develop its potential in drone development, drone technology, we have huge export potential. That means not only for us, we can also sell this, export it, and can earn money. Okay, so it will be a good way of enhancing our defense export and all that. Tech dependency will decrease because in the drone we are developing from scratch, and that is why we have focused on which kind of drone development. Indigenous, Indian technology, Indian companies are getting involved here. These are some of the benefits we can say here. Overall, again, if you define what is the cold start initiative, first of all, multi-service, all the three wings of military, army, air force, navy is involved here. Second, what is the significance? Strategic significance. We are developing it as a deterrence capability. Deterrence means if enemy is about to attack us, we can use our drone capacity to ensure that enemy thinks before attacking. Okay, that what can be the result of our attack. Third is we are building it also for export purposes. Okay, so that we can increase our defense this export and overall revenues. And fourth, the focus is on which kind of technology? Indigenous system-based technology. Okay, so this is some of the topics that we had to discuss in last this week. Now, some of the questions are there based on the same topic we have discussed. So, first is based on that Union Territory of Ladakh we have covered. So, Union Territory of Ladakh was carved out of Jammu and Kashmir in 2019. Which of the following statement is correct? Ladakh was given the status of Union Territory with legislature. True or false? False, because that is their demand right now. Second is the special constitutional safeguards under Article 370 were withdrawn from Ladakh along with Jammu and Kashmir. True or false? How it was created as Union Territory? After the revocation of Article 370. Okay, so Article 370 was withdrawn. It completely is abrogated. Third, Ladakh is the first Union Territory created without its own legislature. False. Okay, we have Andaman Nicobar, for example. That also has same case. So what is the correct option? 2 only. Right. That is the first. Second, we have is INS Androth, recently launched, belongs to which of the naval classes? A simple question. Which of the class of ship does it belong to? Anti-submarine warfare, shallow water craft. So now you have studied. That is why you can answer it. Suppose examination, in prelims examination, they are asking the question. They can give you match the following. One side different types of ships are given, names are given. Other side you have to match it. Okay, so that is why you have to be aware about current affairs and all that. Third is Super Typhoon Ragasa, recently news formed in which of the oceanic region? Western Pacific Ocean we have discussed, right? See, here also suppose that you have not read about Super Typhoon Ragasa. In static part we have covered that typhoon is named only where? In the Pacific Ocean. Which Pacific Ocean? Northern Pacific Ocean, right? South Pacific Ocean? Not possible. Australia, it is called as cyclone as such. Northern Ocean, cyclone. North Atlantic Ocean is called as hurricane. So even if you have not read about Ragasa, just by looking at this term, you know that there is only one possibility. Which possibility? Western Pacific Ocean as such. Okay, so that is how also you can try to solve questions as such. Now, if you look at the significance, importance of each of the topic, so the most important topic is which one? Out of this 5, Cyclone Ragasa. Why I have given it 5 star? Because it is directly in your syllabus. Which syllabus? World climate we have discussed about, weather disturbances we talked about, plus you also have to GS3, in GS3 study about what? Disaster management. So both concept plus current affairs you have to study here, that is why 5 star. Second is OJU project, that is the Hydel project we have discussed. It is important because pre-based facts can be asked. Not directly on OJU project, but because due to OJU project, Subansuri river is in news. The question can be asked about Subansuri river because in the static part, what you have to cover? River system, Indus, Ganga, Brahmaputra and all that. So that is from where important rivers projects on that can be asked. Ladakh project also third, very important because first of all, you have to have understanding of mapping of Ladakh, where it is located, okay, which are the district of Ladakh, regions of Ladakh and all that. Plus, question can also be asked in governance related topics or security related topics because there is a linkage between, as government is stating, there is a link between the Ladakhi organizations and the what you can call as Pakistan as such, right? Then we have cold start, drone, not very important, simply basic factor to keep in mind that cold start, they can ask like this, that recently cold start was news, what does it relate to? Answer will be related to the drone warfare and overall drone practice and all. And last is INS Unrowth, not again very important, basic fact just keep in mind. About INS Unrowth, only 3 things you have to keep in mind, right? This is true for any of the naval ship. First, who built it? Second, under which naval command it was inducted? And third, what kind of ship is it? Okay, that's all. Nothing more is required. Question will be asked in the prelims examination, not in the mains examination, right? So that is all about this year topic and this week topic, right?